All right, everybody, now we're getting down to the finishing off of our bow. We've got it tillered. I run some practice shots through it. But now what we want to do is we want to fire harden the back of this bow. I was toying around, do I use my heat gun? Do I use my torch? I was going to use my torch, and I got thinking about it. I want it as controlled as I can get. Now, a method that you can see on a couple of other YouTube channels out there where they'll build a long fire underneath of it, and they'll do it that way, so they're getting it very consistently. That's very important when you're doing this. Get it consistent. It's kind of just the way it is. If you go too hot in one spot, you may create a brittle point. You don't want that. Now we're only doing the belly of the bow. We're not touching the back of the bow. We'll get to that when we go to finish it off. We'll just sand it very lightly with some very fine grit sandpaper before we put our finish on it. But right now, the whole idea of doing what we're going to do is to make it so we don't get so much string follow, meaning when you pull the bow back, the limbs go back when you unstring the bow. That's basically what we're after. Now, honestly, they shoot just fine with a little bit of string follow. That's not the biggest deal in the world. People made bows out of hickory in this region of North America for as long as there's been people here. So that's important to remember. So anyway, stay tuned. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll catch you on the other side of it. Okay, so we have our bow back in the form board. And what we're going to do, we're going to very gently start heating this limb. And what we want to do is we want to get it even. Now I've got it clamped up here. This side's pretty rigid up here, but we're going to hit these again once I get this done. I'm only doing one limb at a time. It's going to take a couple hours, so obviously we're going to speed up the process on editing. But like I said, and this thing's going to be black by the time we're done. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. We just want to make sure that we get it heated evenly through. Now, when they do these over a fire, a lot of times they get the actual back of the bow, they actually brown it a little bit. I'm not looking to go that extreme because it shoots just fine the way it is. But this will just make this last a lot longer. So that's what we're doing right there with the heat gun. Now I don't hit the outer extremities of the limbs. I don't hit them quite as hard just because it's so much thinner. But if you've lost any of the recurve or the reflex in the process of, making your bow, testing it out, firing it, tailoring, all that good stuff, this is a pretty good way to make it back. Actually, I know, shaky camera. Now you can see on this side, I've already got done how much that actually raised that up right there. That's just from drying out that belly of that bow so fast and so much. By the time we get done with this limb here, it should be close to that as well. So we'll see what happens. So now that the bow is fire hardened, now it's time to finally make the bowstring. Now you could buy a bowstring 20 bucks, 30 bucks, somewhere in there. And nothing wrong with doing that, but you guys who followed this channel for a long time know that I'm notoriously a cheapskate. I will step over $1 to pick up a half a penny and be perfectly happy doing it. So I've got a bowstring making jig. If that's something you guys would like to see a video on, please let me know. They're not hard. You can find plans for these things all over the internet. but they're very much needed for what we're doing. So we're making a 14 strand bowstring because this bow is probably, it's in the 50 to 70 pound range. Well, let's see if I can follow my own jig here. Geez, it'll be a job opening. So anyway, we got a 50 to 70 pound draw weight that calls for a 12 strand or a 14 strand string. So all we're going to do is just start getting our jig filled up here. The only purpose of this jig is just to take the math out of it for cutting your string. And I am not a professional bowstring maker, as you're going to see. I am very new to making the Flemish twist string. I just made my first one, actually, first proper one earlier tonight. But when I was a kid, we used to do continuous loop bowstrings when we were doing our archery stuff. But I definitely like this better. It definitely appeals to my nature for sure. It's more of an old school thing, just kind of pleasant. So we're using two different colors. We're going to use an orange and a brown. That's just to give a little, makes it a little easier when you're doing your twist. I'm not going to do a tutorial on bowstring making until I get a heck of a lot better at it than I am, because I don't want you guys getting some bad information here when you could definitely do better watching some of the people who do this a little more professionally than I do. You guys know how it is here. We don't like to talk out of our ass that much. We just like to build stuff. We like to do stuff. Come on, there we go. So, there's our 7 strands. I'll push these all down. Then all we're going to do, we're going to take our handy dandy cutting tool here. Now this string is pre-waxed, but you definitely need to wax it more for doing this. I'm going to tell you, using the silicone-based bowstring wax that you normally put on your compound just sucks for this. So you got to make your string, keep all your strands at the same where they are right on this jig. Get your 2 loops done. Set them aside. So if you're curious what this bowstring material is, this is a Dacron. It's B55. And for a traditional longbow or recurve, it's pretty good stuff. Some people like to use the fast flight. From what I'm told, that can be hard on a self bow. Okay. Remember, when you take it off the jig, keep your strands how they're oriented on there. That's very important. And we're just going to hang this aside, and then we're going to get set up to make our string. All right, now we're gonna wax these ends up. And we're going to use beeswax. Now here's the deal, you got to soften this wax up a little bit. But you really want to work it into the string. Don't heat the string, heat the wax. All we're going to do, hold it on there, and work it in. Work that wax in really good. Okay, so we get our bowstring jig out again. Try to get as much of the excess wax off as you can. I got a little heavy with it there. But you want to keep running your fingers through, heat that string up. Get that wax really in there. Just keep doing that with your finger or your hands until everything's in there the way you want it. I want to tell you, having these strands stuck together well makes a big difference. Alright, cool. So I'm going to get these at the same length, get them matched up. Okay. The idea here, all we're going to do, it's the same idea as making cordage. Top strand away from us, bottom strand away from us, twist. Top, bottom, twist. Top, bottom, twist. Top, bottom, twist. Now I made the mistake earlier. Of twisting too much, and it shortened the crap out of my string. I mean, I lost 6 inches on the string. There we go. Okay. At this point I want to take a clamp, get that on there, make it a little bit easier. Of course I don't have any small clamps for this, so I guess we're going to overkill it. There we go. So what we got for length on this guy. Get her down to about 65. She should be a little long right now. So we're at 66 right on the money. All we're going to do is start twisting. So we're twisting her up until we get to our... Now it's real important that these stay the same length. Otherwise you're going to have loose spots in your string. We don't want that. Can't wait to string this thing up with the right string. It's going to be nice. We got a lot of twisting left to do here. And as you do this, you're just going to make this string tighter and tighter. The thing I don't like about the beeswax, makes it kind of dirty looking, but just about the 65. Almost there. We are right on the money. Okay, let's see how it strings, huh? That's the exciting part. Let's see, okay. All right. Brace height's a little low, but you can already see I think we're going to have to do a little more tailoring on this. Oh, I like it. Love it. Again, I know the lighting is kind of garbage for this. Now, I got to tiller this down some more. We can already tell that. Let's exercise our limbs a little bit. Let's just see. Step back, of course, take a look. The bottom limb is definitely moving a lot more than the top. But let's see, before we get too far, let's just see what our draw weight is. $60.6 pounds. So we can afford to take a little bit off of this upper limb here. Alright, so we tillered a little bit here. And that's really, really even. Right now we're at brace height. I've got it set around 7 inches. But for some people that's a little high. Now, we actually took a decent amount off of there, but if you actually look how deep we got the char on that, we did really well. Now I want to see what the draw weight is, but I tell you what, that's pretty nice. Now remember the last weight test that we just did, she was at 61 pounds at 28-inch draw weight, or draw length. I want to see if we got her, how far we got her down. Let's just see what happens here. $56.8. Let's try her one more time. 57, going a little farther. Yeah, nice. That's kind of right where I wanted, somewhere in there. Oh yeah, that's a nice feeling. So let's just exercise her a little more. Let's get her down close to draw length. Just see how she tillers out. That is absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh, sweet. That is so nice. All right, let's get some serving on this bad boy. I could get my fingers to work right. We'd be doing all right. So we have our bowstring on. We've tested our draw weight. I installed a knock point on here after doing a little testing. We'll see if that's where the happy place is for the arrow. If not, I've got to move it. So I'm shooting this bow 3 fingers under. So that means I have to have this knock point. You guys can see it here. Right there. I've got to get this knock point just a little bit above the actual square from here to there. So we have a handy dandy little Boyer square that we're using for that. Now this is already set on here. Now we've exercised the limbs already, getting ready to shoot. I've got a target set up. Longest shot I can get in this barn is like 12 yards. We're going to go 10 yards. We're going to see how it shoots. Now the arrows I'm using, this is all I could find kicking around, and I got lucky that the knock point on this thing actually swivels so I can get the one feather going right, the fletching. But this is not the proper arrow for this, not even close. They're not going to shoot the most accurate or the straightest, but it's actually not too bad. It could be worse, but it needs to be much better. We actually have to sit down and figure out what arrows we're going to need for this thing based on the draw weight. All that good stuff. We're going to have to test a couple of spine weights out, which is going to be the stiffness. This is actually way too flimsy for this bow. So what happens is the arrow flies, comes around, but then it'll kick that way. It kind of overcorrects a little bit. But it's going to get us in the ballpark of what we need. So anyway, before we put a finish coat on this or do anything else, let's show you guys how this thing shoots. Let's see if I can even hit the target or if I'm going to break a window. Let's just see what happens. It could be fun. It's a good time for everybody. Now, my wireless mic is right here, so anybody who says this is a loud bow, remember this microphone's right next to the string. You're going to pick up the sound a lot more. So let's see what happens. I almost feel like I'm doing something wrong doing this inside, but it's my building. I can do what I want. Just don't tell my wife I'm out here doing this, because if I send an arrow into her workout room, she probably won't be too happy. But we'll try to get you guys a few different shot angles on here. A little rusty, you know, you got to get all loosened up and all that good stuff. Ooh, not bad. Not too bad. All right, so as you can see, this is shooting pretty darn well. We have a couple of things left to do. We got to put a little strip of leather on this arrow rest. And I may profile this a little bit more. So far, it's not really affecting the flight of the arrow. I have it curved just a little bit. So we're trying to minimize contact of the fletchings over this rest here. So I think maybe we can get it even a little bit better than that. But at 57-pound draw weight at 28 inches, this is perfect for me. It's a pretty fast bow. I'm going to borrow my brother-in-law's, I think it's a chronograph, and we're going to check the actual speed on this thing. But right now she feels like she might be 160 to 165 feet per second range, somewhere in there. It's really not too bad for well, it's actually a quick job, but it's not. But if I was going at it steady, I probably could have done this in a day, you know, easily. But a couple hours here, a couple hours there. So what we have to do now is we're going to take the string off. We're going to do a very, very minor bit of sanding. I don't need this thing to look like you can eat off of it, but we have some True Oil, which is a gun stock finish. That's what we're going to put on this thing to finish it off. We're going to do a leather wrap on the handle, and I may even profile that handle a little bit more. It's kind of blocky, but I rounded the corners on. It's actually pretty comfortable. I do notice as I'm shooting, the way I shoot, I don't grip the front of the bow, or I don't grip the riser super tight. I kind of like it to go where it goes naturally. The only thing that does for me, the way this string is, the string's out this way, so it's actually pretty well centered in this rest here. It's out that way, so the bow, when I get done shooting, it kind of wants to twist a little bit because of the grip I have on it. It slaps my forearm, but it's not horrible. At this point, I'd have no problem taking this out hunting. It's actually shooting pretty accurately, even with the wrong arrow, so I can deal with that. I did end up having to do a double layer of serving string on this to get my nock point right, but other than that, I mean, this thing's just about ready to hunt. All it needs is just a coat of oil on it. Now, if you look at it, it looks kind of goofy. And this limb's bent a little bit funny when it's at brace height, but when you draw it back, it lines up perfect. And the more I shoot it, the more I get that little bit of goofiness, but that's kind of the difference in the wood between the upper and the lower limb. So something we'll have to work on in the future, but honestly, it's shooting so well, that doesn't bother me. And I have plenty more to make. I've got plenty of bow staves. I enjoy this process. This is something that I enjoy a whole lot. It's fun to do. It's one of those projects, and I don't do enough of them. I don't do a lot of hobby projects anymore. You're so busy just doing the stuff you feel like you have to do. And once in a while, just feels so nice to do some frivolous project that you just don't have to do. And it kind of helps keep your sanity. So that's going to be all for this one. We'll do an overview video with the actual finished project. We'll probably do like a whole overview video going from start to finish on this. But the longer videos, they're pretty much just so maybe you folks can do this yourself if you want to at home. They're not that hard to make. It's like anything else that we've talked about here. A lot of people try to make it more complicated sounding than it actually is. It's just like the timber framing, the blacksmithing, any of that. Yes, it's very labor intensive. It's not a fast process. There's nothing quick about it. But it's such a relaxing and rewarding project. If shit ever hit the fan, and the way this world is, you just never know, and you know how to make one of these, and you know how to make some arrows, guess what? You could at least, if you live in a rural area like I do, you could at least keep food on the table. Not that I'm a paranoid hillbilly or anything. Maybe I am a little bit, but I'll never admit to it here on camera on the old lube tubes because I don't want to get shut down. But yeah, that's what we have. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Have a good night, everybody, and I'll catch you on the next one.